In the year 2020, I started a podcast about movies. Some episodes occasionally focused on other media as well. As I dealt with threatening interdimensional beings, I eventually met my other self from another universe where all the stuff I talked about got delayed. As it turns out, the stories as me and my guests described them were presented very differently in that other universe. So I continued podcasting these recaps, which apparently sound like improvised reviews, to entertain listeners of that other universe while they waited for the new release dates. Some episodes even focused on content of years past that did not come out in that other universe for whatever reason. The year is 2022. The podcast is now bi-weekly, unless stated otherwise. My name is Steven Shinder, and you're listening to Delayed Replay. Hello, listeners. Welcome to another episode of Delayed Replay, that podcast where we recap and review movies that got delayed in that other universe, but came out on time in our universe. I'm your host, as always, Steven Shinder, and joining me, as is tradition for the episodes that come out around my birthday, we're past the spooky season. Now it's time for the episode that comes out the day before my birthday this time around, this one being on Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Joining me, it is the other Steven from that other aforementioned universe. How is it going? It is going very well, Steven. Things are pretty similar between me and you in some respects. I know both of us have been podcasting for a while, both been doing Yesshift, and we've both had a couple other podcasts in the past, but of course I've never done Delayed Replay the way you've been doing it, because obviously the movies didn't come out on time for me. If you've been listening for a while, you already know that. Yeah, so for both of us, we're each experiencing a move, going to a new place in our respective worlds, and yeah, it's been an interesting change for both of us. Definitely is indeed. And speaking of change, I may have already done this in the edit, but I'll be changing your voice so that people can tell us apart. Does that sound good?
You always do that, so might as well, just for consistency's sake.
Alright, yeah. So like I mentioned, we're talking about Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, the second Puss in Boots film, sequel to the one that came out.
Wow, back in 2011, that was a long time ago. Yeah, it's been quite a long time, but there's been other, expanded universe stuff, I guess you could say, TV related stuff, Puss in Boots. There's a TV show that's on Netflix, and there's even an interactive thing called Puss in Book, I think it's called.
Yeah. Well, we should back up. So, our histories are pretty similar, but for you, what was your experience with the Shrek franchise, which pretty much spawned the Puss in Boots franchise, I guess we could call it?
So, yeah, I remember seeing the first Shrek movie in the theater with my brother and my mom, and thought it was hilarious. I remember the marketing for it as well. It was crazy. Even a while after it came out, I feel like there was some stuff I think 7-Eleven or something, or maybe AM/PM had these Shrek-colored Slurpees or frozen beverage type of thing.
Yeah, they did a lot with the grain way back then. It was kind of weird, honestly, just thinking back, it's just such a 2000s thing, it feels like.
Yeah, definitely. And I remember watching the sequel in the theater. I saw all these in the theater.
Oh yeah, same.
Yeah, and Shrek 2, possibly better than the first one. It did not disappoint, just iconic. And there's even that weird music video for Accidentally in Love with I think it was a guy in a donkey costume or jackrabbit costume, it looked like. It was super weird.
Oh yeah, that was of that era where I remember my cousins would be watching some music videos on TV, and I would kind of just watch things secondhand, and that came on, and it was, yeah, the music video was something.
Yeah, and the Shrek 2 DVD was amazing. Like, Far Far Away Idol, which was pretty much my introduction to American Idol. It had Simon Cowell, and I didn't even know who he was. That was my introduction to him, CGI Simon Cowell.
Oh yeah, and there's a CGI Simon Cowell in Scoob, the 3D animated Scooby-Doo movie.
Oh yeah, so I don't know, maybe both take place in the same universe or something.
Oh, I mean, I guess it would depend on whether Simon Cowell can live for centuries, because Shrek is supposed to take place a long time ago, right?
Well, maybe. I don't know. It's really weird. I mean, I think that one episode of The Simpsons, Homer said it very well, where he was like, "I'm gonna tell you the story of Shrek 3. It's about a guy who lived a long time ago, but he talked about stuff from today."
Yeah, that's very well put. I remember in Shrek 2 noticing the Burger King logo in the background, and for the longest time I legit thought it said Burger King, but it like looked like the logo, but apparently it said something else. I'll link it in the show notes if I can, or maybe I'll look it up just now. Just one sec. Burger King Shrek 2. Let's see what comes up in Google Images. Okay, so in Shrek 2 it's called Burger Prince, but yeah, there are like all these logos in the background are supposed to evoke stuff from today, obviously. And just stuff like that. It was funny, never questioned it.
And then we get Shrek the Third, which continues Prince Charming's story, which I thought was natural given what happened to his mom at the end of the second one. King Arthur is also in it, and I thought it was a nice subversion of what we think of as King Arthur.
Yeah, well, for me, what I think of as King Arthur is Graham Chapman and Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Same, honestly. I mean, it's just iconic. I mean, you say King Arthur, and Monty Python's the first thing I think of.
Yeah, but I thought it was nice that it didn't make Shrek and Fiona the heirs to the throne. They could just do their own thing, raise the Shrek babies or whatever. And this might be a hot take, but Shrek the Third has a better immigrant song sequence than Thor Ragnarok did. And Thor Ragnarok had like 2 of them.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you on that. Barracuda was also cool in that. I remember that was like around the time Guitar Hero 3 came out. I mean, my brother and cousins were like shredding on it, and Barracuda was one of those songs, it was so of its time.
Yeah, and like since then I've heard people like really bag on Shrek the Third, like saying it's a terrible movie, but I've never hated the movie. It's been, I mean, I feel like it's around the quality of the first 2, and even the 4th one was Shrek Forever After.
Or Shrek the Final Chapter, as some of the marketing would call it.
Yeah, that one, I remember at the time seeing it, I thought it was pretty epic. I'm not sure where I'd rank all of them at the moment since, it's been a minute.
And some people can make the argument that, Shrek Forever After didn't happen, it was just, It's a Wonderful Life type of thing. It gets undone, so it doesn't count. But I do like that Shrek and Fiona fall in love all over again, and there's more stuff for the kids. They're a little bit older and can talk, and it's a really sweet moment at the end.
Yeah, and there were also like some holiday specials in between. There was Shrek the Halls, which came out between the 3rd and 4th movies, and Scared Shrekless, which came out after the 4th movie, and it felt like that was the end of the Shrek franchise for a while.
Yeah, but then of course we got Puss in Boots. The solo film came out 2011, and for some reason they set it before the Shrek movies, which I feel like there wasn't really any reason for that. It could have very well just taken place after all the Shrek movies.
Yeah, for sure. But they do have, like, at the end of Shrek Forever After, Shrek closes the book, and on the shelf you see a Puss in Boots book. So I figured that was meant to be, like, the story of the movie.
Well, yeah, but now, like, retroactively, it could very well just be the story of the TV show or something. Have you seen the show?
I've only seen the first episode. I haven't seen enough to, like, really have a formed opinion.
Yeah, me neither, but the animation, I mean, with DreamWorks TV shows, you pretty much expect, like, animation to be not as good in some cases. Like Monsters vs. Aliens really downgraded on TV, and I think Puss in Boots, what little I saw, has that effect as well.
And I'm not really sure when the TV show is supposed to take place, before or after his first movie. I kind of would like it to be before, but again, I haven't seen enough of it to know if it fits.
Yeah, it's might be ambiguous, kind of an Emperor's New School type of situation, which could be annoying.
Yeah, but I do like the title of the interactive thing on Netflix, Puss and Book. I thought that was pretty clever.
Yeah, definitely. And it's really weird how this TV show, The Adventures of Puss in Boots, aired from 2015 to 2018. I feel like for the general public, it has felt like the Shrek franchise has been kind of dead for a while. There was that Shrek musical, which was amazing.
Oh yeah, I love that musical. The song where he sings about how if he could be a hero, it's just so heartfelt. It's I'll drop it in the show notes.
And there is definitely a huge Shrek fan base, the good side of it. There's a fan film on YouTube made by like 200 different people or something, where each of them made a segment of a film. Altogether it makes the complete Shrek film, but you'll have like live action reenactments of scenes or lines and different animation styles. It's so well put together. It's so fun.
Yeah, definitely link that in the show notes. People should check that out.
Yeah, so Shrek fandom still very well alive, but the franchise itself has felt dormant. There is a reboot or revival of sorts on the way. But it's weird, like the Shrek characters, like Shrek the character has felt dormant for a while. And you would think that a character this popular would have his own TV show, but it kind of feels like DreamWorks or Universal or whatever are treating him as like it has to be something special. You can't just oversaturate it.
Yeah, but I guess we're comfortable oversaturating Puss and Boots.
Yeah, that is kind of weird. Like Puss got his own movie. I remember really liking it. There wasn't much talk about it from other people. Like I feel like generally the general public kind of forgets that the movie was a thing and therefore are unaware of the TV show unless they're maybe browsing the kids section on Netflix and it's like, oh, what's this type of thing.
Yeah, that's probably how I discovered the TV show. Like, it's kind of weird that the TV show is a thing. So, in a sense, Puss in Boots is very much part of the Shrek legacy. So, in a sense, the Shrek franchise has not been dormant, but it kind of feels like it is because it's Puss. It's not Shrek and Donkey and those other characters. It's kind of feels like its own universe, even more so than Frasier does from Cheers, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I totally get what you mean. It kind of feels like its own separate. It feels Penguins of Madagascar is what it is.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because yeah, that feels like its own world. There's only like maybe one episode where Alex has kind of a cameo. Yeah, I totally get what you mean.
It's kind of weird that it took this long for this sequel, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, to come out.
Yeah, for this universe, it came out in April of this year. We kind of already explained in a previous episode like how the DreamWorks release order worked here. I think it was in the Spooky Jack episode. But anyway, it's really weird that there's this Puss in Boots sequel this long after the first one, 11 years after the first one. And the TV show, I'm not sure how popular it is, but I don't hear many people talking about it, which makes it all the more weird that this sequel came out and that it is a sequel. It has returning character Kitty Softpaw, so it's not like it's just some new standalone thing.
Right. Like they don't put the number 2 in the title, I guess, to make it more accessible, but it is clearly a sequel. It's called Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. So it's not a first movie.
Right. Well, they do kind of play with that, but we'll get into it. So for this movie, what did you think of the animation style?
Yeah, the animation style, I really dug it. It feels very Sly Cooper. Yeah, also kind of like the bad guys is over here. I kind of feel like that's maybe the direction DreamWorks is moving with its animation over here.
Yeah, I love Sly Cooper. It's just so good.
Yeah, like the glowing green. It's just so amazing. It's like, I think it's a nice change from the previous stuff we've seen with Puss in Boots.
Yeah. So, what basically is the premise of this? Puss is on his last life. He's used up like all the other eight, as people have seen in the trailer, and he realizes, oh crap, I gotta figure out like how to live my life safely.
Yeah, so he moves into this home owned by someone named Mama Luna, and there are these other pets. Like there's a therapy dog named Pedro, voiced by Harvey Guillen, I think is how it's pronounced.
Yeah, I think so.
And so he's kind of lazying around. Feels kind of like how he is in that alternate timeline of Shrek Forever After.
Oh yeah, I kind of wonder if that was intentional because yeah, and he does grow out the fur a bit.
Yeah, but of course he's, him having lived the life that he has, he still has a reputation, and there are these people hunting him down, and these are the three bears plus Goldilocks.
Yeah, this. What'd you think of how the three bears were here compared to how they were in Shrek?
Yeah, so I kind of feel like the movie in its marketing was being ambiguous about when this takes place in the Shrek timeline. We figure that if this is a sequel to Puss in Boots, maybe it's like after that movie, but still before the Shrek movies. But the presence of the three bears and the baby bear being all grown up, they previously appeared in the first Shrek movie where the bear child is a baby, but here it's all grown up. So it's yeah, I think it's very clear that this is later in the timeline. I think pretty much after all the Shrek sequels we've gotten so far.
So in this time frame, this part of the timeline, the three bears and Goldilocks are bounty hunters, and they're going after Puss in Boots. And what they explain is that Puss was the reason that the three bears' porridge was eaten. We see a flashback where Puss goes into their home and Goldilocks is trying to stop him. But at this point in that flashback, Puss has such a huge ego and he is starving, so he sneaks in, drinks all the porridge, and Goldilocks goes in, tries to stop him, and then they hear the three bears coming and Puss escapes, very much leaving behind this girl to deal with these bears.
Yeah, like that really changed how I look at Puss. I mean, since it's I don't remember if it's pre-Shrek or post-Shrek, but definitely pre-Shrek 2, so I guess Puss maybe still had questionable morals at this point, but leaving that girl behind to deal with the bears, it's just bonkers. But apparently in the time since then, Goldilocks has talked with the bears, and I guess they didn't kill her, and Goldilocks gets locked up for a crime she didn't commit. Goldilocks, I guess. Eventually, the three bears, they realize that maybe she didn't eat the porridge because while she's in jail she is fed some of it at some point, like long into her sentence, and she's allergic to the porridge. So that evidence comes to light, and then she is released, and of course she is hell-bent on revenge.
So are the three bears, because they realize, oh shoot, we got this girl locked up for we thought she was breaking and entering, and she stole stuff. We didn't believe her when she said a cat did it. So now they all team up, and they're all hunting for Puss. And it's really strange, having them team up in this way.
Yeah, for sure. And so, since they find Puss in that home, he gets back in action. He doesn't have his sword back at first, but he gets in his outfit. He and Pedro, the therapy dog, they break out, and of course, Kitty Softpaws ends up with them. Because Puss and Kitty Softpaws are just OTP, so you gotta have him in there.
Yeah, I mean, it's Antonio Banderas and Salma Hayek. You gotta have that desperado shout out,
Yeah, and they do the whole thing of doing a cute off at some point, and Pedro thinks it's really cute. And so they are evading the three bears and Goldilocks, but they also hear about the big bad wolf and how he is after something.
Yeah, this is a different big bad wolf from the one seen in the Shrek movies. This one has like hooks on his hands, and it's explained that he's a twin of the one we've seen in Shrek, but I'm a twin with the same name, just like Rumpelstiltskin. So I guess they kind of explain away that continuity error with like two Rumpelstiltskins in the third and fourth movies.
Yeah, that was kind of weird.
Yeah, so this big bad wolf, he's looking for something called the Last Wish. And this is something that can, it can grant a wish, um, and Puss realizes that, oh, maybe this can give me back all my other 8 lives. So it feels very much like a quest for immortality. And they go across like this, like all across the land, trying to find where this last wish is. And apparently it's in some sort of frozen tundra.
Yeah, the geography of this world I kind of don't get. They're traveling across the land, there's grass and there's cows, and the cows offer some milk for Puss, which is weird. Like, apparently they are big fans of him, which I don't know. I thought that was like a weird choice.
Yeah, it was a weird choice, but then it turns out one of these cows tips off the three bears and Goldilocks about Puss's presence. Oh yeah, so basically cow tipping, right?
Yeah, basically. They even say as much in the film.
Yeah, because that cow does it too, because it's afraid of the bears and of Goldilocks, and a fight ensues. Kitty Softpaws holds her own against Goldilocks and the three bears, and it's just, I don't know, it's kind of a funny fight. Pedro is trying to hide under the cows, trying to avoid everything. The big bad wolf comes through as well, and Pedro kind of is feeling inadequate because here's this big kind of doggish thing, and he's just like really small and feels like very cowardly. But Puss and Kitty Softpaws get him out of there, and the cows are kind of in the way, and so their pursuers lose them. And yeah, Kitty Softpaws and Puss give Pedro kind of this little talk of how, hey, you need to be brave, and to do so, you gotta show a mean face. And Puss tries showing like mean face where he's like looks like a cat who's about to pounce, and Pedro's like, that just looks kind of cute. And it's like, yeah, they just can't get past the cute factor, I guess.
Right. So Kitty Softpaws basically tells Pedro that when the time is right, he will know how to be brave. It's kind of a flimsy little talk, but Salma Hayek's voice acting here is great. Really enjoy it.
Yeah, and Antonio Banderas as well. You can tell they're really into these characters, just like really doing very well as them.
Yeah, so they go through this meadow. There are lots of trees, and of course there is a lingering presence they feel. And Pedro smells something, he's like, something's not right. And what they encounter here turns out to be a pot.
Yeah, and not pot, mind you, it is a pot, kind of like a leprechaun pot. We expect it to have gold, but instead what it has inside, some tiny chimpanzees.
Yeah, this is weird. Like, they were red, kind of like that barrel of monkeys from, those old toys. So they have those in Toy Story as well. But yeah, there's this pod that just leap at them and start attacking them. It's really random.
Yeah, and it feels very Gulliver's Travels. So maybe that's what they were going for, with all the ropes and everything. But yeah, this is a strange idea. These tying them up and demanding that they give them all that they have. And it's very like, we don't have much. But yeah, these have like such a huge appetite. And so Puss and Kitty and Pedro promise to go on a quest to feed them so that they may pass. Which I don't know why they had to do this, because I guess I'm too overpowering, but they basically end up having to travel through the brush of all of this and looking for food. And what they find is just this giant, it looks like a cigarette, but it's a giant candy cigarette. They enter some sort of candy land of sorts, but of course they can't say it's Candyland because the board game and I think the rights to that and all that, but very reminiscent of Candyland. There are like all these globs of ice cream.
Yeah, like this is kind of confusing. Is like, how is there this Candyland right next to a meadow?
Yeah, and so they tell them about this Candylandish place. I guess they weren't aware of it, and so now they kind of go in and are eating all the candy. There's also giant chocolate, and these are chimps who I guess can eat more than what a normal chimp can eat. Because I don't know if they can eat candy, but clearly these types of chimps are able to eat all of this. They're enjoying the banana split, the stereotype type of thing.
Yeah, and it is here that because Puss and Kitty and Pedro have been lost for not sure where this tundra is, but then they realize that this ice cream part of this Candyland is the tundra. As they travel further, it gets colder and colder, and they see the big bad wolf up ahead. There's like a storm that ensues. They get super cold and have to take shelter within this giant cone. So it kind of acts as a cave, and Puss is like, better to be in a cone than to wear one, which was kind of funny.
Yeah, that did give me a little chuckle. And Puss is like talking with Kitty about how like, Kitty is like telling him that she's not sure that all of this is worth it, going on this quest, and he's like, it is worth it. I want to have more lives. And she's like, but at what cost? And he's like, I want to spend all of the rest of them with you. Just having one life is not enough. I want to spend all of them with you. She's like, what? And he's like, all this time I've been wasting my life, and I realized I should have been spending all of it with you. I want to get all those lives back just so you and I can have more time together. I can't just have one life with you. I want to have all of them with you. And her heart is really warm from all of this, and Pedro again finds this like really adorable, and clearly Puss and Kitty are in love here.
Yeah, and then they encounter this pig. It's very different from the Three Little Pigs, but it's a pig made out of, it was like this gummy pig.
Yeah, like I don't know how this candy place works. I guess they're sentient candy animals.
Yeah, like so like this gummy pig shows them some gummy bears, and then when the three bears and Goldilocks arrive, these gummy bears like fight the three bears. It's like a super weird bear against bear action. Goldilocks almost has the upper hand and nearly kills Puss. Should mention that like by this time he does have his sword.
Yeah, Kitty Softpaws had given him the sword.
So they catch up to the wolf, and he's inside of this, like, he's on top of this giant ice cream cake, and at the top is this giant candle, which has a flame on top, and it's like whoever can blow out the flame can make the wish. And the big bad wolf is like, I will huff and puff and blow out this flame. And of course he's like fighting the others in an effort to get this blown out.
Yeah, and Puss, he's on the verge of blowing out the flame, but then he gets a premonition of what would happen if he does. Because I guess the way it works is that before the wish is granted, it gives you, like, the possibilities that could happen, which is kind of too convenient, but I guess they want to avoid making it Shrek Forever After all over again.
Yeah, like when it happens, we don't know that it's a premonition. It kind of feels like they're living the thing. So what we see is Puss blowing out the flame and wishing that he didn't lose his previous lives, and then it's we see like clips of him avoiding all those other deaths and sort of in reverse order, and then we get a title drop that says Puss in Reboot.
Yeah, I thought that was like pretty funny. The Shrek movies have been a deconstruction of fairy tales, so to have this be a deconstruction of reboots is uh, pretty hilarious.
Yeah, so basically what happens is we see Puss on all these different adventures where he's he's living life to the fullest in a way, like he's fighting all these monsters and going on adventures, but it, like he's doing all this by himself, like all alone, and getting super egotistical, and he's in a home surrounded by gold and jewels and all sorts of like trinkets. He's very wealthy, but he sighs because he has like no one to share it with, and like he has a lot of fish, but he can't like enjoy that either. He's like super alone, and he's like, I miss Kitty, I miss Petrol even.
Yeah, Pedro is kind of like the donkey of this.
Yeah, and like Puss is like super depressed, and this goes on for a while to the point where it's kind of uncomfortable, like his depression, like his state of depression. But yeah, he's like basically living day to day, all alone in this home, drinking a gallon of milk by himself, and pretty much feels like the life he had at Mama Luna's place.
Yeah, so it's kind of like he's back to square one, and he's like, what's the point of undoing everything if the things that were worth doing are gone? Because in all these adventures, like, he hasn't encountered Kitty's soft paws for some reason. I guess maybe one of the deaths happened prior to him meeting her, and maybe like it created a pathway that led to him meeting her, and it's like, yeah, for some reason she's just not around, and Puss is like, even just one life with her would have been enough. And so with all this regret, we see like everything melting away, and it's kind of spooky. Like everything kind of turns dark, things are melting around him, kind of like ice cream melting, and even like Puss is being like blown away, like he's as if he's being sucked into a black hole. And it turns out that he hasn't blown out the candle.
Yeah, like it basically showed us what would have happened if he'd blown out the candle.
Yeah, it's kind of too convenient, that it would show what could possibly happen if he does that. Like it shows the blower what would happen. Like the rules of this are really weird, but yeah, Puss decides, no, I don't need to make the wish. Just one life is enough, and I will make the most of it. And then the wolf is like, well, joke's on you, I'm about to make my wish. And so the big bad wolf blows out the candle, and he is shown like what would happen if his wish is granted, and he's like, yeah, I'm cool with this, let this wish happen. And so what ends up happening is the big bad wolf, blows out the candle, and this kind of comes out of nowhere, but his wish ends up being, I wish I could have seen the equinox with my parents as a kid. I guess like this was like a childhood thing that he missed for some reason. Apparently like it was raining, and so in the flashback, like now he remembers like an alternate memory that I guess has happened now. Like he and his parents,
instead of a rainy night, it was a clear night, and so they were able to see the stars and the effects of the equinox, and this filled him with wonder. And so now, I guess missing the equinox is what put a thorn in his paw and made him the like villain that he was. But now with that memory, the big bad wolf is not so bad after all. He decides that he wants to like help Puss and the rest against the three bears and Goldilocks, and so he fights alongside them. And uh, is like, look, you shouldn't hold a grudge. It's better to just let things go. And they're like, well, it's easy for you to say. You just change your life with a wish.
And so, somewhere in this Candyland, Kitty Softpaws notices an area. She's like, hey, come over here. And she tries luring the bears away. And basically what happens is they end up falling into this giant pool of porridge. And the bears are like super pleased and are like, all is forgiven. And they set aside their bounty hunting ways, I guess. And Goldilocks is like, what about me? I still endured all of that life in the cell.
You know, the last wish has already been granted, so Goldilocks does not get her life back. But Puss, like, gives her an earnest apology, and he's like, if I could give you a life, I would. Like, you didn't deserve to live a sheltered life in a cell. I wish I could take it back. And, you know, she looks like she's about to kill him, but then he does, like, the cute, you know, cat pouty face, and she's like, oh, I can't stay mad at you.
Yeah, it was like too convenient to this solution to the whole dilemma.
Yeah, it really was. Also, there's an off the cuff line where Puss mentions the time when Donkey took that potion that turned him into a horse, and that they heard that dragon turned into like some sort of space dragon. So yeah, I guess I explain away that little thing, that little off-screen thing.
Yeah. Yeah, overall, there's not much else to talk about, so I guess we could go into final thoughts and score out of 10. Obviously, Puss and Kitty end up together, and they start their relationship. Like, it's, you know, before this, it's felt kind of like on again, off again, but now they're like in a committed relationship, so maybe they'll get married at some point, who knows. But yeah, what'd you think of Puss in Boots: The Last Wish? And what's your score and unit of measurement?
Yeah, so Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, probably not as good as the first movie. Some of the story choices I felt were kind of too easy and too convenient. Like, I like the sentiment of some of the messages in it, but it just felt too easy in places. You know, Puss and Kitty Softpaws are great. Pedro got his moment in that final fight, you know, defending Puss and Kitty against, like, the three bears and the wolf at different points, so, you know, he found his courage. The animation looked great, but overall, you know, this doesn't really stack up that great as a sequel. You know, it kind of feels like Shrek Forever After in a sense, even though it's not the entire plot, but it feels like it takes up a chunk of that plot. And I don't know, I just, maybe they could have been a bit more creative. I did like the Candyland aspect, but it felt kind of random and out of nowhere. Or I guess it's like a desert land or something. But overall, it's, yeah, I don't know. It was fine, I guess. It could have been better. So I think I'd give Puss in Boots: The Last Wish a 6.75 out of 10 tiny chimpanzees. Yeah, not monkeys, chimpanzees.
Yeah. I'm in agreement. I'd give this a 6.75 out of 10 gallons of milk. It is just, yeah, it's kind of funny, kind of entertaining. Like, I'm not gonna say I won't watch it again, but it falls short compared to like some of the other movies. And yeah, I don't know like what they want to do after this. If there will be other Puss in Boots material, maybe not. Maybe this kind of caps it off, and maybe we'll see Puss in the Shrek reboot or revival or whatever. So yeah, I guess that'll do it. With that, you know, I often talk about like what I'm up to. For you, Steven, of that other universe, like, since it's our birthday, and don't say what we're each gonna wish, or it might not come true. But how have you felt about the past year and like what's coming?
Well, the past year for me, possibly my best year post graduating college, because of, lockdown and everything that was after. Like, it was such a weird time, but there are some great things that happened this year, especially with Yesshift. I think maybe some things are different in your universe, but I got to see Yes on their American tour, and me and my dad even interviewed Jay Shellen recently. And yeah, there's like all the interviews and a bunch of other cool things that happened this year. Just talking with friends mainly on Discord. Sometimes meeting up with them when I could, and yeah, I think the coming year will be even better with the new living situation and being closer to more people I know. Um, and yeah, I think there are good things up ahead.
Yeah, I Shreko those sentiments.
Wow, wow.
Thanks again for joining me. And again, I'll just insert the plugs and post like I have tended to do recently. All right, now for the plugs, at Steven Shinder on Instagram and Twitter, Steven Shinder Storytelling on Facebook. You go to stevenshinder.com for book info, Lemons Like Rain. My novel's been out for a while on Amazon, and the next one, Trespassing Through the Visages, will be out in the near future. You can also follow Yesshift, a podcast I do with my dad. It's also a vlog. We talk about Yes and Yes members and people involved with Yes. There will be a review of the new book about Keith Emerson by Chris Welch, out in honor of Keith's birthday, what would have been his birthday, the late legendary prog rock keyboardist. And you can email Delayed Replay at delayedreplaypodcast@gmail.com. Let us know your thoughts on desserts and which one you'd want to make up an entire land. I don't know. Okay, now on to the end. And the next episode after this one will be on Batgirl. The Batgirl movie.
Oh yeah, the one that got canceled in my universe.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing what y'all say about that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. There's that to look forward to, but without further delay, have a good day.